Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent that the quorum call be dispensed with.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, good morning to you and to everybody in the gallery. I wanted to thank Majority Leader Reid for highlighting next week's Banking Committee hearing on small business growth. It's something that we all here have a very dear and great concern with. One of the issues that will be discussed is a concept called crowdfunding. And people may be saying, what's crowdfunding? Well, if you've ever wished that you had the opportunity to invest in like a Facebook or a Google or a new idea before they hit it big, wouldn't that be nice? We'd all be multi-billionaires or whatever. My Democratizing Access to Capital Bill, S-1791, would expand entrepreneurs' access to capital by democratizing access to start-up investing so they can have the funds to grow and create jobs. The House passed a crowdfunding bill, 407 to 17, so you know they must be on to something when they can pass something in such a bipartisan manner. The President referenced it in his State of the Union. He supports crowdfunding, and public support for crowdfunding is, in fact, exploding. Just this week on Monday, I hosted a roundtable in Boston at City Hall on small business access to capital in Boston, and I listened to small business owners and entrepreneurs and investors to get their thoughts and concerns about business growth, about investing, about the access to capital, and it was a very, very successful event. They all had one thing to say, and that's if we can't get behind the bipartisan common sense idea of crowdfunding, then what actually can we, in fact, agree upon? And how can we expect small businesses to grow? With such strong support, I believe that we should put, once again, partisan politics aside and focus on what we can do to help small businesses, as we've done with the 1099 fix, as we have done with the 3% withholding, the hire here of veterans, the most recent insider trading, Stock Act, all my bills, all things I've worked on. We did it in a bipartisan manner when the leader let them come to the floor and, in fact, allow us to work them through. Passed 96 to 3, 100 to nothing. It shows that we in the Senate here can work together regardless of our political differences, our geographic locations, our belief on where we are, because we are Americans first. These are things that the business communities are looking at to move our country forward. And next Monday, I'm actually hosting a roundtable with an entity called WeFunder, a group of innovators who started a petition after my bill to discuss crowdfunding. And their petition currently has 2,500 supporters who would invest over $6 million today if businesses had the opportunity to participate in crowdfunding. But right now it's illegal. My bill is a common sense bill. And I want to note that Senator Merkley has also introduced a different crowdfunding bill. It's a good start, but we can do a little bit more. And I've reached out to his staff, and I've asked my staff to continue to do just that. So I think we can work together, as Senator Gillibrand and I and Senator Carper and Collins worked on the recent insider trading bill. We can do the same with Senator Merkley if he is willing and if the leader allows us to put those political party differences aside and actually work on something for the benefit of our country. Today I'm going to talk about some important principles that I believe are critical to making crowdfunding legislation a success. So just picture this. For crowdfunding to actually work, we need a national framework which my bill creates. If we require entrepreneurs to comply with every separate state securities law mandate, filing the appropriate paperwork alone would cost over $15,000. That's the reason we don't have this type of situation. We don't have these small business owners being able to, in my bill, give up to $1,000 per person, up to $1 million to invest in that next new idea with minimal SEC filings and minimal Secretary of State filings. It's something that just makes sense. We should not be burdening our startup businesses, which is where the largest growth is in this country right now, with costly quarterly reporting requirements. I mean, we might as well just go through the whole process of the full SEC filings. It's really not appropriate, especially until they are fully off the ground. The point of crowdfunding is to allow entrepreneurs to flourish, not to bog them down in the avalanche of paperwork and bureaucracy and red tape. That's why we're in this mess somewhat, is because of the overregulation, the continued regulatory and tax uncertainty when it comes to planning and growing businesses. In addition, I believe that our existing fraud laws are solid. We need really just to enforce them. Exposing startup founders to new personal liability, it's not going to work. It'll just be create a real wet blanket on everything that we're trying to do here. From thousands of investors who are investing only a maximum of $500 to $1,000, and to have them also put in a personal guarantee for $500 investment? How does that make any sense whatsoever? A quarterly filing, a personal liability guarantee for $500 investment? That makes no sense at all. So this will cause entrepreneurs to use crowdfunding only when there is no other option available, and will lead them to switch out crowdfunding investors for venture capital firms at the first opportunity, therefore, I believe, stifling that crowdfunding opportunity. There was a recent article I read which Canadian firms, Canada itself, the government is deeply concerned about us actually doing this because they're fearful that Canadian money will be flowing into the United States. I mean, gosh, wouldn't it be nice for once to have money flowing into the United States on something that will actually create small business growth in our great country? So recognizing that investors need protection, my bill does require entrepreneurs to offer their securities through regulated crowdfunding intermediaries. In addition, my bill requires intermediaries to facilitate communication between investors and the offerers. And I believe that Senator Merkley and I have the same concerns in this regard, which I believe can be addressed without creating a private right of action. It's really not necessary, especially for the amount of money we're talking about and the new business growth opportunities we can actually stimulate. Crowdfunding depends on small investments by many, which is why we must exempt crowdfunding securities from the 500 shareholder cap, so we don't create additional red tape for startups. It just makes total sense. Everyone talks about overregulation of small business and how that is hurting their growth. I see it, you see it, where you live, Mr. President, and in legalizing, I repeat, in legalizing crowdfunding, I believe we can still provide for the appropriate level of regulation, but also give small businesses the access to capital that they so desperately need. This is just a home run all over the place. And once again, I'm very pleased that the Majority Leader has taken an additional step to call for the hearing on crowdfunding. When he came and talked about this issue, he referenced Senator Merkley's bill. I also have a bill. So why don't we do it like we did it with the insider trading bill, the hire a hero, the 3% withholding, the 1099, the Arlington Cemetery bill, all those things. When we were allowed to work in a truly bipartisan manner, we were able to get it done. Because, with all due respect, there's no Republican bill that's going to pass right now. And I know that shocks some people. There's no Democrat bill that's going to pass either. It needs to be a bipartisan, bicameral bill that the President's going to sign. And that's what I offer, is that olive branch, that one good deed that begets another good deed that begets another good deed, and moves us forward and forward and forward to addressing our very real problems in a truly bipartisan manner, as Americans first and not as Republicans or Democrats. So I would ask the Majority Leader to also include my bill when he's moving forward, because otherwise I'm fearful that nothing will move forward. So I'm looking forward to not only working with Senator Merkley, but working with the Majority Leader and his team. I'll tell you, when I was working on the insider trading bill, my bill, Senator Gellibrand's bill, that we combined, we found that common ground. We worked together. We managed the floor. We had an open amendment process. Everybody walked out of here saying, "Whoa, that was nice." Gosh, when's the last time we did that? Remember? It was unbelievable. I mean, everyone had a role. Even Senator Kirk, who's recovering, had a role to play, and it was good to see. And we can do it even in this bill. So, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, I want to thank you for the time, and I yield the floor at this time. I see that we have a speaker all ready to go as well.
Mr. President, the Senator from